Hello and welcome to the final part of Lovebites as we are in the epilogue of album 2. And
Still, even though it's the end, I still haven't got out of the mindset of thinking of it as the Clockwork Orange. Still, it's what goes through my head every time I conceive even saying it out loud. I'll go, don't say orange, don't say orange.
Clockwork Immortality. So, what we will do is, as we always do on these album ones, is we will discuss the album
Yeah.
as a whole at the end. But before that, shall we hear the epilogue?
Yeah, I don't want it to end, but let's get through it so we can talk about this song and then have a chin wag about the album. And I'm doing this slowly because I didn't have the screen ready. Let's do this. Is there any more fitting a way to end this album than a fade out? I don't think there is. I think they got
No,
that bit absolutely spot on, didn't they?
they did. Um, so, Mr. Seddon, what is your feelings on the power ballad that we have just had as the epilogue?
And it is, isn't it? It's what it says on the what it says on the tin. It's an absolute power ballad. There are many of these in existence, aren't there?
And
Some might argue
normally I'm not a
too many.
fan.
Well, that I did wonder when I was listening to it. I did wonder how this one would sit with you because it's not traditionally the sort of track that I would equate to you loving, even by bands that you like. I think this feels to me like the sort of thing you wouldn't. So I guess more interesting is what did you think of the power ballad?
As a general rule of thumb, as you've just said there, I am not a fan of a power ballad because they're usually very wet. This
By wet, what does one mean by wet?
just sort of damp, dull, and just nah. Just they all pretty much have the same vibe going on with a power ballad, and it's just
Yeah.
it just all of it as the terms I like to use is wet, and I'm just like it's not for me. This stinks of all of the tropes of a power ballad and has all the same things like the piano intro, then into like the guitar pulling up the atmosphere and the time to get your
Yeah.
lighters out moment. I'm not gonna say I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing. It turns around on power ballads, but for what it is, they do this well, and it doesn't bore me in the way that most power ballads do.
Well, as an ending track to the album, I can see why this is the ending track to the album. Like
Yeah,
titled Epilogue, pulls the whole journey we've had into a concluding part, and this epic, sprawling power ballad into fade out. Although I will say before I forget, I did wish we had one more vocal lyrical return before the end. Not necessarily the fade out, but I just wanted one more,
in there somewhere.
maybe
Yeah.
kind. Yeah, just I don't know to hammer home the point even more. I don't know, but I just felt like it could have done with one more. But um, yeah, so I think it's a really fitting end to this album. Go back to what I said on the last track though, Final Collision, because I do think you're right. Light is in the air moment, and I do think a lot of people would, and maybe when this is conceived, would be and this is how we end our gig. I still would end the gig with Final Collision, but I'd end the album with this. I think like scratching two different itches for me. This one is the first, as far as I could tell, because I had a quick scan through, did a little bit of homework on this one. I think it's the first one that Asami's been involved in the music writing of any of their releases so far. I think generally she's had a couple of outings, obviously with the lyric writing, but I think this is the first time that she's had any major involvement in the music, which might be not only the design being because it's a final song of an album, but maybe brings a bit more of her musical proclivities in. I don't know. I really liked it. I'm also not a massive power ballad fan. I'll be honest. I think quite often the pomp and circumstance that they try to get to feels forced for me. I think that's
Yeah.
why I struggle with a lot of them. It's music by design rather maybe than music by feel. And of course, anyone could say that about anything. Every bit of music has some degree of design in it. But I think some styles of music lean or certainly feel like the creativity is more apparent, whereas this sort of song often feels it sits a bit more in like the pop world for me of can be a lot more cookie cutter. It's like, can I hit that bit at that point?
Yeah.
Having said all of that, I say I liked this one. I, I think I liked it more and more as it went on as well. I think that the build of it worked for me. I would have said probably the first minute and a half was my biggest struggle with it, and I was a little bit like, oh, is this the song that I wanted? But Bearing in mind it comes in at just under like 7 minute 10 seconds. It didn't feel like 7 minute 10 seconds to me. It felt like it went. It's slow paced by purpose, but it felt like it went at a really
Yeah,
fast pace for me. I wasn't sitting there kind of going, "Come on, come on, don't stop
yeah,
drawing
it's
this out any longer." I liked it, but as I say, I liked it more as the song went on. I think.
yeah. It said it hits all the tropes of a power ballad, but it doesn't sit in any of them for ages, which I think that's the
Yeah,
difference. Whereas, how many times have you heard the rock band do the power ballad with the piano intro and it sits in it for 2.5 minutes, and you're like, you've done two verses in this which you really didn't need to do. It could have just been one. Or we're gonna do the ramp up with the guitar, but instead of it being 30 seconds, 40 seconds like it is on here, where it sort of it serves its purpose of getting from point one to point two.
yeah,
They dine out on it for too long. As I said, it stinks with all the tropes that are there that you get in these sort of power ballads. But as you say, it doesn't sit in that for too long. It sort of transitions into the next one a bit quicker.
yeah.
That it doesn't get you to the I'm bored now ness of
I think the
that
vocal
they
really
can
helps with
do.
that. I
Yeah,
think the vocal really helps because I think on this and through a lot of their songs, I think there's a couple of really fantastic vocal performances on this album. I'm not going to, I promise I'm not going to get too far into the album. We'll do that in a minute. But I think on this song, as much as it's got a lot of the tropes of a power ballad, I don't think it falls into those vocal trappings, which are normally the ones that really, really destroy me. Of the vocalist, whoever it is, feeling like they have to go to extreme
yeah,
extending every word out to 8 minutes long and things like that. And I'm not saying there's not elements of that in here, but I feel like the vocals are delivered smart. And you say about tropey. I mean, for lyrical content, coming off the back of the three tracks that we had, I do. I think this is quite fitting vocal content for certainly what the tail end of this album has done, and I think it brings it together in a really snug package. This one does feel a little bit more greetings cardy maybe with some of the kind of
mm,
sentiments it's doing, but it doesn't feel as much as if you read the lyrics cold. I think you could argue a bit more generic than some of the other ones we've seen in the last three tracks, but I think it works because I think it works with the music and the vocal performance. So I've got kind of no real problems with it. In fact, I think they make a lot out of a little, but there is a bit right at the end. I said I wanted them to come back and do another vocal. Just that last bit, that just the way you are, just the way you are. Love the song you sing the song you love, and um, I really liked that they brought it back to their music. This is the end of
yeah,
their second album, and probably the album that they had a bit more control over. An album that I think they've crafted out of love, and I don't know, very encouraging, very nice message, isn't it? To say go, and I know they equate it to singing, but almost that go and do the things that you want to do.
yeah,
Yeah, I really liked it. Probably not the standout on the album for me, but I think a very fitting end to this album.
yeah. For album pacing and stuff, this does work. As I say, as a way of ending the album. You know, the last few haven't been like the rages that we've had earlier on, so it doesn't
Yeah,
feel like a massive juxtaposition to go to the power ballad at the end.
yeah.
But I don't know where you would put this in the album if it wasn't going to end it, because I think if
Oh
you dropped
yeah,
it in
yeah.
at other points of the album, it would be such a transition and such
I'm
a juxtaposition that it would throw out how the album flows as a whole
I'm
as
exactly
well.
with you. I think this song ends the album or doesn't exist. I'm totally with
Yeah,
you on that. I think. I mean, I guess not specifically this song, but I guess there's an argument that you could start an album with something like this. But I think that the lyrical content wouldn't make sense, and maybe the pathos that comes through it. And I think that only works so well because of the preceding three tracks. But yeah, yeah, for me, it's last song on this album or nothing. It's a 9-track album if you're not putting it at the end for me.
Yes. So, shall we discuss Clockwork Immortality as a whole?
Yes, yeah, yeah. Let's. So the first thing I wanted to say about it is, I really liked Awakening from Abyss. I thought it was a fantastic album. I thought it was a combination of really good fun, really good homages, really good nostalgia, and chock full of promise. I would
Yeah.
say of things to come. This album feels like a massive step up for me, and I didn't actually necessarily think that they needed a massive step up necessarily, but this album really smacks to me of what I love in bands is when you see the progression of their ability through the
Mm.
albums, like and quite often people will their first album's their best and it remains their best, and sometimes they tail off because they piled everything into that, whereas this feels like really really talented people getting more confident and better at what they do, and not just in the songwriting and the crafting of the music and the playing of the music, but actually from a production standpoint as well. This felt like it was, and probably the record company maybe chucked a bit more cash their way, but this felt
Yeah.
really polished from that side as well. The sound on this is amazing, I think.
Yeah, as we've sort of said a couple of times, there are moments in Awakening where some of the mixing decisions
Yeah,
don't help it. You know, like there are parts where like the vocals are a little bit too down in the mix on there. There are bits where you know the guitar tones sort of not play to the strengths on it. Where on this, it's you say they've had what? Let's see. So there was a year between this and the first and Awakening. So
yeah,
they've probably been out on tour.
with an EP in between as well. Let's not forget
Yeah.
that.
So they've probably been out on tour. They've done, you know, they're more sort of crafting the sound that they want to be. So they then go into the studio to do this one with that little bit more of a how it works better in a studio or in the live environment. Um, and they hit some callback sort of stuff. So you've got bits where you do have those the thrashy speed bits that they do on Awakening. There's some of the callbacks to their obvious love of the 80s
Yeah,
metal and stuff that are still there, but it's not as much. Oh, let's do the whole sort of this sounds like a Maiden song. We'll just take the gallop from it and just make something our own with that galloping pace, or you know, we want that riff that sounds like all the good thrash bands, but instead of just going, oh, let's just have the Slayer tone or just play with what would be a Slayer or an Anthrax style riff, let's mix all of them together and make our own riff that sounds like it could be by any of the good thrash bands. It's definite evolution from where they were on that first album. And
well, I think I joked a bit on the first video about my OCD kicking in about not having done the EP because of the alphabetical nature of it, and I'm sure there are some people who will say, "Oh, you know, should have done the EP," and I think we will. I've no doubt we'll come back and do the EPs afterwards. One of the things that I think I quite liked, or no, liked. I like now that now that we listened to this album by not hearing the EP in between, is I think maybe we'd have seen those progressive steps. Whereas I
mm,
think because we didn't do the EP, that jump from Awakening to this feels that much faster. And again, bearing in mind it's a year in between, with an EP. That's not a lot of time. And I wanted to pick up on kind of what you were saying there about the that it's hard, I think, at the early stages of a band who like and are taking influences from other eras of music and other bands, not to get caught up in that trapping too often of comparing. But I think the comparisons are still there, aren't they? There's no
yeah,
denying that. And I'll even say this right the way up to and including Epilogue is they're doing things that have been done before, But this album, even more so, starts to. I was starting to lose that in my head because I was starting to go, yeah, yeah, I get that they've got influences from other ones, but this is their sound now. And bearing in mind what this is 2018, wasn't it? This
Yeah,
sounds 2018, so it doesn't sound like someone trying to do an 80s album. It
no,
sounds like someone pulling the 80s sound into 2018 and making it relevant and fit now for me.
yeah. So see this how this album starts is perfect. You know, we are that 1-2 the beginning of Addicted into Pledge of the Savior. Just pace, just fucking get in you right now. Get in the
Yeah.
pit and start going pace. Um, See, and Rising and Empty Daydream sort of do a little bit of a turn on there. You know, it's still quick, but it's not as pacey, and it's a little bit more bigger songs than just going for full pace. But for me, that 1-2 of Mastermind and MDO, that is probably one of the best 1-2s on any album I've heard in a very long time.
And just as a reminder, if anyone knows of a 1-2 live performance of them, let us know in the comments.
Yes.
Be very much appreciated. The flow of the album's great for me. You said the
Mm.
word pace there. There's a lot of pace in this album, isn't there? Throughout, but the pacing of that pace it comes across really well. You know, like and I think the content, the lyrical content, the vocal content as well follows that flow really nicely. I think it builds us up, excites us, and then we get to that more. And here's our message, kids.
Yeah.
It's drawn you in, bit like a drug dealer going hit your first ones for free, and then we'll make you pay. But I think it's really put together well. And as I say, like I know people get a bit funny about that idea of like the mechanics of it, but sometimes I imagine bands will write songs in. They'll be writing multiple songs at any one time. I imagine it doesn't come together like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I
Yeah.
think the way you slot these things is a really key part to a successful, a good album, should I say, rather than
Yeah.
necessarily a successful one. Because we've seen a lot of albums be successful that are turt. And yeah, this does it for me. I think so we've kind of listened to it. Um, but going forward, it'll be a. I often talk about Sunday afternoons. I like listening to albums on a Sunday afternoon, and what I want from my album on a Sunday afternoon is to be taken along in a seamless journey. And this feels like it takes me along in a seamless journey and has a satisfying conclusion to it.
Yes. So
Top track? Can you pick between Mastermind and MDO as your top track?
Mastermind, just
I mean, that both of them would be in contention for me, and I think possibly one of those two would ultimately win out. For me, I'm not quite there yet. There's a lot of conflicting songs here for me to
mm,
pick my favourite song of the album. There's a good 4 or 5 that are in contention, but yeah, Mastermind and MDA are slightly winning for me. But I think a couple of subsequent listens and I don't know. I don't know where I'll end up. But I mean, nice. Not only is it what I think is a really great album, but a really great album with a lot of standout songs.
yeah,
Sometimes we said about flow. Sometimes an album is great because its high point is amazing, and everything else builds you to that high point. Whereas this,
yeah,
I think, has multiple high points in it.
yeah. It's it all the way through up until we got to Mastermind and MDO. Every song was like, this one's my favorite.
Well, I
Nope,
think I
this
said on the
one.
first vid, didn't I? I think I said
Yeah,
on
this one.
Addicted. I think I've got a new favourite Lovebites song, and I just stopped saying that because I felt like it was going to become quite a common theme
Yeah,
after that. But
but yeah, no. Once we got to the Mastermind and MDO one, I was like, fuck's sake, which one is it? I, I, they come as a pair. They're coming as a pair. But I knew at some point I'd have to pick just the one. But yeah,
Yeah, I look forward to hearing all these live as well. I know people often say to us, react to the live stuff. We will do. Like
yes,
we did set us all out to kind of go at subscriber things. I think we might need to start wavering on that because we've got a lot of live stuff to catch up on at some point. But um, I, quite often I like listening to them in here. I like albums. This is one of those albums though where I really really want to hear their live performances of a lot of these songs because I do think I'm going to love them live, but also one of the
yeah,
reasons why I want to see them live is I want to see them playing the instruments when they're doing a lot of these songs
yeah.
because a lot of this wasn't a video heavy album or anything like that, was it?
No,
Um so actually seeing them physically do it is really intriguing to me because sometimes there's so much going on in these songs that and I've now got so used to them being so good, I'm almost by not visually seeing it taking it for granted, whereas I think actually seeing them having to do it will make it even more impressive.
yes. So comments down there and links if you can find them of especially Mastermind and MDO. Just for me,
And
whether we
me,
react to
I
them or
want to
not,
hear them as
I
well.
just want
Yeah,
them. But yeah, thoughts on the album as a whole down
if
there.
someone can find a 1-2 punch, even if it's two different videos, hopefully from the same gig. But if someone knows of a gig where they did them back to back and can do it, as soon as you send us a link, we'll do a reaction video to it.
Yes. As always, like, subscribe, ring bells, and all the YouTubey things.
And
Um,
it's worth saying, isn't it? Like, I think after this, uh, we we both like this album enough. We ain't stopping here, are we? We're coming
no,
back for the next album, and I think when we go on these journeys, we tend to assume we're going to do all the albums. But I guess you could hit one that's so god awful, you just went no. But I can't wait now. Although I say I can't wait. Said this on other stuff. Um, for those who are fans of the band, have been fans of the band from the time, the wait between albums must have been painful. Not too much between Awakening and this, but must be painful. Whereas all of this stuff is now there ready for us to gobble up. But the nice thing about leaving a gap between recording is we get to stay with this album for a while, don't we? We
yeah,
get to not just go, all the sweets are open to us straight away. Let's put them all in our mouth and never actually taste any of them. We'll get a couple of months with this album and then we'll be back with the next. And I can't wait. Really can't wait
yes,
to hear where they go from here.
yes. So, other bands that we are going on full albums of coming up: VOB, more Radiohead, all right, more Rammstein, and then we'll get around to Electric Pentagram. So,
Yeah,
you know,
with little sort of side streets around it because we like to do reactions to the stuff that you guys recommend to us. We love a cover. We like to do a bit of we like to have the odd themed week here and there, don't we? So
yes,
and as I say, partially to allow us to have a bit more time with each album.
yes. So we will do the next album, but it will take a little while as we've got three other albums to do beforehand.
Yes,
But
we'll get there. We'll get
we'll
there.
get there, and you know, if you chuck it anything now from Awakening and from Clockwork and for Immortality are now fair game
Orange.
for lives.
Yeah,
So
and I know as I
any
say,
live
sorry.
performances, get them in because they are now fair game to be listened to because we do always want to do album
The
versions before
album
we do
first,
live
yeah.
versions.
Or to be nice to you, I want to do album versions first, and I'm the
Yeah.
precious little one about that. I'd like to hear him how they were first crafted before we go on. And yeah, just for clarity, I think whether it be right or wrong, what we'll probably do is after we've done all the albums, we'll scroll back around and pick up the EPs then.
Yes. So, as always, thank you for watching, and until next time, goodbye.